Hey Math 8, this is Mr. Bainey, and we're going to take a look at lesson 5.1, writing linear equations from situations and graphs. The standard is 8.f.4, constructing a function, and the essential question is, how do you write an equation to model a linear relationship given a graph or a description? So in this explore activity, we're given a description, so let's dive a little deeper into how do we construct a function, or how do we create this equation. Greta makes clay mugs and bowls as gifts at the Crafty Studio. She pays a membership fee of $15 a month and then an equipment fee, $3 an hour to use the potter's wheel table and kiln. Write an equation in the form y equals mx plus b that Greta can use to calculate her monthly cost. So her monthly cost is going to be her ending result, her y. So we got to figure out what's going to make up her monthly cost, or just the cost for 1 month in that case. So um, we know that the month cost, or the cost for the month, is the y. That's the dependent variable. And what is going to change? What number will change, or what value will change for that month? And it's going to be the number of hours, because if she only uses the equipment for 1 hour, or for 5 hours, or for 10 hours, or for 8 hours, and so on, that's going to change how much she has to pay. She has to pay 15 bucks, and she has to pay the $3 an hour. So the $15, she'll always pay that, even if she doesn't use the equipment. So it's number of hours. So part B, during April, Greta does not use the equipment at all. That means 0 hours. 0 hours. What's going to be the number of hours? Oh, I should have written that right here for the first question. Number of hours x, so x equals 0. What's her cost? Her cost is going to be $15, because if you think about it, she's paying nothing for using the equipment, but she's paying that $50 a month membership fee. So the y-intercept is 15. Okay. So when x is 0, y is 15. X is 0 means that that's going to automatically be our y-intercept. Okay, part C, Greta spends 8 hours this time in May for a cost of $15 plus the $3 per hour for 8 hours. So if it's $3 an hour for 8 hours, that's this 8 times 3, that's going to give us 24 bucks. And 24 plus 15 is going to give us $39. Okay. In June, okay, that was for May, sorry. Just backing up for a little bit. In June, she spends 11 hours for a cost of, we got to do 15 bucks membership fee plus 11 hours at $3 an hour. So that's 3 times 11, that's 33, plus 15 is going to give us 48 bucks. Okay. From May to June, what's the change in the x values? The x, remember, is the hours. So she used 11 hours in June, and then in May, 8 hours. So 11 minus 8 means that the change was 3 hours. And then from May to June, the change in the y values is the cost. I'm going to put a dollar sign there. It went from, excuse me, $39 to $48. So I'm doing 48 minus 39 is going to give us a change of $9. Okay, so the slope is the change in y. So m, change in y was 9, divided by the change in x, which is 3, and that gives us 3. And this means $3 per hour. Okay, yes, they made us do all of that work when, remember, in the original problem, if you look up at the top, $3 an hour, it tells us right there. So it matches that. Part D, use the values for m and b to write the equation. So we have y equals mx plus b, which means I fill in the m, and then I fill in also the b. So the slope was 3, y equals 3x, plus 15. Okay, so knowing how to find all this information, answering these questions is very important. I would say part A is hugely important for identifying your variables. What does the x mean and what does the y mean is very important. So as you go through these descriptions, think about that if it doesn't ask you. What's the x and what is the y? Okay, let's take a look at the your turn on the bottom of page 130. The cash register subtracts $2.50 from a $25 coffee cafe gift card for every medium coffee the customer buys. Use the graph to write an equation in slope-intercept form to represent the situation. So when we write our equation, remember that we got y equals mx plus b. So we want to think about the y-intercept on the graph. Where does it start? And then what is my slope? What's the rise over the run? So it starts at this 25 bucks, right? That's how much we started with. So b is 25. And then let's say if I want to go to this last point. The point in the middle is not a very nice point. It's like $12.50. And even then, I'm not completely sure, but it's for 5 coffees. 5 coffees would be about $12.50. That's not a very nice number. So I'm going to use this. 10 coffees, there's going to be $0 left on the gift card. So let's do a rise over run from the first point to the last point. So I'm starting from 25. This goes by fives. So my rise is negative 25. And my run is 10 coffees. Okay, so that's my M. So that means, I could reduce this, or I could divide, use my trusty calculator again to divide and get my decimal form. So I could divide top and the bottom by 5. I would get negative 5 over 2. Or if I actually divided it, it'd be negative 2.5. Okay, because 2 goes into 5 2 times. So I'm going to put the fraction instead, and I'll get negative 5 over 2, and there's my equation. And the last one that we're going to look at on page 132 is number 5 up at the top. Harry's weekly allowance varies depending on the number of chores that he does. He received $16 in allowance the week he did 12 chores. Okay, so let's do color coding here. So $16 when he did 12 chores, and then $14 when he did 8 chores. So we're going to write an equation for this allowance in slope-intercept form. And that means we want y equals mx plus b. So the first thing we want to do is be able to identify what is the x and what is the y, like what does it represent. So usually when we're dealing with money, okay, the allowance, we have to know how many chores he did in order to figure out his allowance. So the y is going to be the allowance, and I'm going to put a dollar sign next to it, okay? And then the x is going to be the number of chores. Okay, if you think about it this way, x is the dependent variable. I'm sorry, x is the independent variable. Y is the dependent variable. So see if this makes sense. The allowance depends on how many chores Harry did. So that makes, since the allowance depends on the chores, the allowance is the dependent variable for the y. Okay, so let's fill in this table. So he got 16 bucks allowance for doing 12 chores. And then he got, looks like $14 when he did 8 chores. Okay, so let's do our slope. So you look at what's the change in y going from 16 to 14. Let's move this over just a little bit. So m, I got to do 16 minus 14. I can do it like that, which is a 2, right? And then I got to do 12 minus 8. I could do it backwards. So 14 minus 16 and then 8 minus 12. If I did it the other way, I would get them both negative, which is still a positive. So I know that some of you still get confused by that, by switching them around, but this is just fine. 16 minus 4 is 2, and 12 minus 8 is 4. Okay, so remember y goes on top and x goes on the bottom. This reduces down to 1/2 or to 0.5. So I'm going to put in as my slope 1/2. And then here's the tricky part. We have several methods to finding the y-intercept. But one, if I wanted to use my slope here, is if I continued this trend, if I went from 16 to 14, then next would be 12, right? 12 to 8 on top, which means if I continue, this would go to 4. Okay, so it's subtracting 4 on top, subtracting 2 on the bottom. If I subtract 4 again, I get 0. So that's actually what we want. I want to know when Harry does 0 chores, how much allowance is he getting? And so again, if I follow that trend on the bottom, I am going to get a 10. So let's erase that question mark. I'm going to get a 10 right there. And that means our y-intercept is in fact 10. Okay. And that's the equation, y equals 1/2 x plus 10. That's going to do it for this lesson 5.1. I hope it was helpful. As always, come to me if you have any questions. Feel free to do that. And have a great day. Thank you for watching.